So if we were to test this, you can just save this and then you run main, right? So the main is this one, run meta campaigns to sheet, you run, and that's it. Let's see, let's go. And you can see that the data is here. So short and sweet, how you can connect meta ads to a Google Sheet. So we are here in Ads Manager in Meta, and as you can see, this is just for testing. So I created this campaign. It's called Test Campaign Sandbox. And the idea here is that I will use the API to bring this data, the data for this campaign to a Google Sheet. The way you get a token, you need a token, a refresh token, so you can make calls to the API. Something important here is that this token is only valid for 2 months. So every 2 months you need to get a new token. So you gotta keep that in mind. It's not like Google Ads or Shopify or any other API that you can like have a refresh token forever. No, this one every 2 months is revoked. So to get a refresh token, you go here to developers.facebook.com apps, and then here you can see I was testing with some apps, so that's why I have all of these. But if it is the first time that you're doing this, you won't have anything here. Then you click here and create app. And then here you just give it a name. I will just put test 99 and then next. And then here you can select what you want to do with the API. But if you're bringing data, if you're pulling data from campaigns, ads, or like insights in general, you can click here in other, and then you click next. And then he gives you two options. I have it in Spanish, so that's why you see these two in Spanish, but basically you choose the one that says business, which is the first one. And then next. And then here you just make sure that everything is fine, and then you just create app. Yeah, so once you create the app, you can set up APIs for all of these options like Messenger, Instagram, but we are going to use Marketing API because we are in Ads Manager, right? So you just click here and set up this API, and then here on the left, you can see under Quick Start, it says Tools. You click there in Tools, and then here you can select the permissions for the token. So if you're reading ads, or you click this one, you select this one, ads read. If you're doing things with API, creating ads or something that needs to send something to API, like write with API, you select ads management. Or if you want to read from insights, you click here and read insights. In this case, I will just click these two, and then I can click just get token. And that's it. With this is the token that we need. So you can copy that and then you can paste it in the spreadsheet. So I'm going to build the spreadsheet now. Okay, so we are here in the spreadsheet, and this is from scratch. I don't have anything. I just created the spreadsheet so you can see how is everything done. So you click here in extensions. I mean, you can give it a name to the spreadsheet and also the script, but I will just skip that part just for this demo. Yeah, so here the structure of the script is pretty simple. We will have 4 parts. So the first one is going to be a config, and that config will contain the access token. It will have the API version and some stuff in pagination that I will explain in a minute. Then we will have 3 functions. The first function will be like making, like it will be a main function, so we can orchestrate everything. We will have a second function, which will be making the call to the API and getting the data. And then we will have a final function, which will be getting that data and writing to a spreadsheet. So let's start with config. So config, this is the structure for config. You see, we have the access token. This is the token that I just got. Remember, this token is not valid every 2 months, so you need to get a new one. Then we have the ad account ID. So this part is also important if you don't know how to get it. When you are in Ads Manager here, you can see that, let me make it smaller so you can see here the part in the URL after act is the number that you need. So you copy that number and then you just paste it here after act. right? And that will be the account ID. Then for the API version, well, this is the one that I'm using, but this is stable, but they are updating the API often. So just make sure, I mean, you could use this one, and if something breaks, you just make sure that update it here, and that's it. And then the page limit. So the way it works with an API is that you can think of it like a book. So you get like the API, every time that you make a request on API, you don't get all the data at once. They give you like a page, and then you can do stuff, and then you can request a second page, and then you can do stuff, and then you request a third page, right? So that's usually how it works. So in this case, the first time that I make the request, I'm gonna get the first page, but you can also set a limit for how many items you want in the first page. So I'm gonna put 200, which is the maximum. You can just ask for that. And then, if you need more than 200 items, let's say, in this case, I'm just bringing a campaign because it's just a test. But let's say you have more than 200 campaigns. Well, you will need, let's say you have 300. So you can set this to 200. And in the first page, you will get 200 campaigns. And in the second page, you will get 100, and so on and so forth, right? That's how it works. So once you have that, we can have the main function that I mentioned, which will orchestrate everything. So you can see I put some comments so you can see what each function is doing, and also have some steps inside. But in this case, so we have the step one, which is calling the function that will make the call to the API. And then we pass the data, in this case campaigns, to another function, which will write to a spreadsheet. So this function, fetch campaigns from Meta API, is this one here. Okay, so fetch campaign from Meta API. So this is the function. And basically here we have also steps, and I have some comments so you can see. The first step is building the query. So the way it works with the Meta API is that you send everything in the URL. So for example, that's why in this here, you can see then the URL is pretty much the base, which is this graph.facebook.com, and then it comes the API version plus this part, which is the edge path, you can understand it like an endpoint, and the endpoint is the ad account and slash what you want to get. I want to get campaigns, so campaigns. And then I'm also passing the fields, which is what do you need from the campaign? So ID, name, status, and effective status. Then you pass the access token, and then the limit, right? But again, you need to format it like if you were to be sending everything using a URL. So you can see that's what is happening here, right? Receive all of those params, and then it just formats everything, adding this in each param. And then step 2, which is making the call to API itself, but also you can see that we're doing pagination. So the API returns just the first page with the amount of items that you set here. So you need to get until the end, right? So you can fetch all the items, and then you can process the data. So that's what's happening here. You can see that we set items, so it collects everything. And then here we're just saying while there are more items, just keep iterating, right? So make a call to the API using the URL that we just built. And this is just to guard any errors. And then we are collecting the data, right? So we just getting the data from the first page, and then we are sending it to items, push, right? We're pushing that to items, and then we check, is there any other page? Because usually the API will return something at the end, which is yeah, there are more items. So that's what it's doing. Is there something else? If yes, we just make another call. If not, it just breaks, meaning you just finish this function. And then here we just return all the items that it collected. Okay, so that's that. Once that's finished, now we need to write to a spreadsheet, right? So this is the function to write to a spreadsheet. So this is the function, write campaigns to a Google Sheet. So it receives the campaigns. You can see here, we got the campaigns from this function, the data, and then we're sending that, or passing that to this function, which is this one here. So it receives the campaigns, and then pretty much the first step is looking out for the sheet now number one. If it doesn't find it, just creates it, right? In this case, you can see that I just created this workbook. So by default, the first sheet is called sheet 1. Done. So once that's done, it goes to step 2, and here pretty much what it's doing is setting up some headers, and then it just formats the data as we want it, and then you just push the data to a spreadsheet. So in this case, you can see we don't have any headers. So if we were to test this, you can just save this, and then you run main, right? So the main is this one, run meta campaigns to sheet. You run. The first time that you do this, it will ask for permissions. So you review permissions. You select your account, the standard that they always ask. So select. In case you don't have this selected, you just select it here and then OK. And that's it. Let's see. Let's go. And you can see that the data is here. So we got the IG and the status. I have both as post because this is just a test. But you can see this is the name. If we go to Ads Manager, you can see that this is the campaign that I have on. So this is the one that it brought. Yeah, so that's pretty much how the connection works. So from there, you can play with this function. Well, you could play with these two functions, right? This one. So you can just change the endpoints. Yeah, so you can bring any other type of data. In this case, it was just campaigns, but you can change it to ads or whatever. But the logic is the same, right? Like this is the connections. Once you create the connection with the refresh token, you just need to, you can play with this function here. And then when you get the data as you want it, you can play with this function here. So you can just write it to a spreadsheet as you want it. Yes, that's pretty much how it works. You can find the code down below in the description. If you find this helpful, I appreciate if you give me a like, subscribe. It helps me a lot, okay? Thank you.